Look around you. The news you heard 5 minutes ago, the plans you made for next week, even the memories you replay in your head. Do these things actually exist while you're not directly engaged with them? Or are they illusions our minds cling to, distracting us from the one undeniable reality, this present moment? We often treat the past and future as though they occupy more of our attention than the fleeting seconds in front of us. But here's the paradox. What if focusing so intently on what has gone and what hasn't arrived yet is precisely why we feel unfulfilled, anxious, or stuck in a loop of repetitive thoughts? Picture a vast ocean. The moment you see a wave, it's already changing form, passing into memory as quickly as it arose. Your current awareness is the crest of that wave, forever cresting now. The deeper you dive, the more you realize that the past is just echoes, and the future is pure speculation. If that stirs a sense of wonder, you're in the right place. Because once you realize that this now is not just a passing point between behind and ahead, but the only thing with genuine substance, you start to see everything differently. Skeptical? Good. Because this is a radical concept that's about to shake the foundation of how you think, behave, and live. Ever found yourself replaying past conversations, wishing you could rewrite a single moment? Or perhaps you get lost in daydreams of a future that gleams with the promise of relief and success. Now imagine that each time your mind travels to these places, you're stepping away from the one real moment you actually inhabit. It's almost like planning a vacation to a land that nobody's ever proved exists. Because scientifically, and we'll lean into quantum physics soon, time is not as linear or tangible as we believe. So here's a question worth pondering. What if the certainty you've assigned to yesterday and tomorrow is just a comforting story your mind tells to give structure to what is otherwise a boundless existence? That question alone can feel unsettling, even a bit thrilling. We cherish our memories and dreams, right? They color our lives with meaning, turning random events into personal narratives. But are these narratives merely illusions that keep us from tasting the fullness of the present? If they're illusions, might we be carried away by them, letting them distort our sense of purpose and happiness? Suspend your skepticism for just a second and get ready. Because in a moment, we're going to pull quantum mechanics, philosophy, and psychology onto center stage, and they might confirm some of your deepest suspicions about time being far less real than you think. Let's flip the script entirely for a moment. Right now, your mind is likely wrestling with conflicting ideas. Is it possible that the past is nothing but stored neurological data, or that the future is pure imagination fed by probabilities in your mind? This is a pattern interrupt, a direct invitation to see time differently, less as a solid timeline and more as a mental framework that organizes our experiences. Because if we realize that the continuum we rely on as past, present, future might be a construct, does it change how we prioritize our day-to-day actions, relationships, and mental well-being? Imagine you're standing on a cliff edge, but that cliff is the edge of your own perspective. One step forward and you plunge into a realization that everything you hold on to, past grudges, future aspirations, might be illusions that have real emotional impact only because you grant them power. And that's not to say memories aren't meaningful or that planning is pointless, but we might be giving them more weight than they deserve. By questioning your assumptions about time, you invite in a jarring sense of freedom. Perhaps you can let go of some burdens that have no genuine existence outside your own mind. That shift in perspective may seem radical, but trust me, it's worth hanging around to see where this leads. Certain memories grip us emotionally. The smell of a loved one's cooking, the thrill of a graduation ceremony, the heartbreak of a tragic goodbye. And in our hearts, these moments feel incredibly real. That's because memory isn't just visual. It's anchored to emotions, cravings, regrets, and joys. Yet, the moment you conjure these images, aren't they merely mental reconstructions shaped by the perspective you hold now? Meanwhile, anxiety for the future can twist your stomach in knots, as if the dreaded event is happening in real time. Strange, isn't it? Let's anchor this in the present for a moment. Sink into your body. Notice your breathing. the sensation of air drifting past your nostrils, the subtle beating of your heart, everything tangible, everything that is undeniably real, is playing out in the theater of now. Yet we often sacrifice these living sensations at the altar of our mental time travel. It's both mesmerizing and haunting to see how easily we drift from the only moment we have. The more you focus on the raw immediacy, this breath, this feeling in your body, this quickening of your pulse, the more you might sense that true peace resides precisely here. Emotions linked to then and later reveal themselves as fleeting illusions as soon as you witness them from the silent vantage of right now. Now let's bring in some quantum thought. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in states of probability until observed or measured. It's not until the act of observation that, so to speak, the wave function collapses and the particle assumes a definitive state. Forgive the technical language, but there's a profound parallel here with how we perceive our life experiences. Could it be that the past is nothing more than a stored interpretation, and the future merely a set of probabilities waiting for your present focus to collapse them into reality? Here's why this matters. Once you stop letting memory or anticipation rule your decisions, you liberate yourself from cycles of regret and fear. You start behaving in ways that might seem fearless or even revolutionary to those shackled by the illusions of a linear timeline. Layer in the teachings of Zen Buddhism, which maintain that this moment is all there is, and you find a synergy between ancient wisdom and the cutting edge of physics. There's a swelling momentum here, almost like a wave ascending, pushing you to reconsider how you make choices, how you love, and how you interpret every thought that crosses your mind. Keep riding that wave, we're going deeper still. If the claims so far are shaking your sense of what's real, then let's up the ante by layering some psychology on top. Cognitive scientists argue that our brains are prediction machines. Even as you listen to this, your brain is predicting the next word, filling in blanks. The you that exists in time is mostly a projection, an ongoing model your mind updates. So, we walk around thinking we're anchored to the past, yet all we have is a brain that replays certain encrypted patterns of neural firing. We plan for the future, but all that's happening is imagination. Could it be any clearer that we only truly live in a single continuum of now? Admittedly, that can be overwhelming. If now is all we have, we might ask, what if my past achievements vanish? Or am I not allowed to plan for my future? However, what if all those things, achievements, plans, only matter insofar as they guide your actions in the present? Imagine freeing yourself from the heavy emotional baggage of regrets and the paralyzing fear of future failures by recognizing their intangible nature. That's not escapism. Paradoxically, it can make you more effective because you channel all your focus, creativity, and motivation into the actionable moment unfolding right here, right now. This is where the transformation gets real. You see, understanding that only now exists is more than a mind trick. It's a gateway to permanent adaptation in your daily life. Let's get concrete. If your mental commentary is endlessly reliving that embarrassing moment from 3 years ago, you can interrupt that cycle by reminding yourself that the memory is just a thought arising now. It doesn't define you any more than a passing cloud defines the sky itself. And if you're stuck fearing an upcoming event, an exam, a job interview, or an important conversation, pause and check in with your breath. In that immediate moment, fear is only a sensation in your body, a swirl of nervous energy. It doesn't exist out there in some future realm. When you're obsessed with the past, you're feeding regret. When you're consumed by the future, you're feeding anxiety. So, to practice, observe your breath, anchor into gratitude, name one thing right now you're glad to have. That micro shift releases you from the illusions pulling you away from what's real. Even gratitude journaling becomes a recentering ritual, grounding you back to what is tangibly in front of you. Every time you do that, you're effectively rewiring your brain teaching it to dwell in the present rather than the illusions of before and after. It's a powerful momentum because each small step compounds, drawing you deeper into awareness. Does your mind resist this idea? Maybe you're thinking, but my job demands long-term planning, or I can't just forget my past trauma. That's the pattern we're interrupting here, the belief that presence and practicality can't coexist. In truth, you can prepare for tomorrow and harness lessons from yesterday, but if those mental constructs torment your peace, they cease to be useful tools. They devolve into psychological burdens. The real shift happens when planning becomes an act of now, not an attempt to dwell in a hypothetical realm. Time for another jolt. Eckhart Tolle taught that the present moment is more than an instant. It's the gateway to deeper consciousness. If you find scientific edges, that's fine, because quantum physics never said you can't remember or anticipate. It just points out that only the act of observation collapses possibilities into actualities. Right now is that act of observation in your personal life. By stepping away from repetitive mental narratives, you widen the space to notice your own finite existence. You see the ephemeral nature of everything you once thought permanent, like those lines about your identity, your relationships, your aspirations. Through this pattern interrupt, you discover that reality is flexible in ways you never imagined. Recall a time when you felt truly alive. Maybe it was witnessing a sunrise so breathtaking that you forgot everything else. Or maybe it was the moment you realized you loved someone so deeply that the past and future disappeared. Do you notice how these experiences are entirely rooted in the now? They aren't overshadowed by regrets or overshadowed by future worries. In those fleeting instants, there's a purity that resonates through your whole being. That's not pure coincidence. When you contact the present directly, you touch something unshakable, something that can't be tainted by memory or anticipation. It's no wonder daily practices like mindful breathing or simple gratitude journaling can revolutionize your outlook. They are rituals that anchor you to the only tangible reality, this moment. The irony is that accepting life as an eternal now does not doom you to chaos. Instead, it can make your decisions more intuitive and empathetic. When you genuinely inhabit your body and surroundings, you see more clearly what needs to be done and what should be let go. Some might call this phenomenon flow. Call it what you will, but it offers a direct experience of peace and immediacy that no story about a past or future can ever replicate. You've felt it before, if only for a moment. The key is realizing you can live there more often. We're nearing the point where this conversation wakes up a deeper wisdom inside you. The notion that nothing exists except now might seem boldly philosophical or downright mystical, but perhaps it explains why chasing happiness in future achievements often leaves us with a hollow victory, or why nostalgia often fails to recreate the sense of wonder we once had, because in repeating it, we're missing the mark. The only place life actually happens is here. The rest is memory or imagination. And that's what we're about to make undeniably clear. Before concluding, consider how applying these insights could drastically embolden your life choices. With your attention trained on the present, you might talk more honestly, love more fiercely, and work with a focus that doesn't fritter away precious mental energy. Maybe you'll even tackle hidden anxieties you didn't realize were rooted in illusions of time. It's the calm at the eye of the storm, a vantage point that sees time as a tool rather than a tyrant. You don't have to give up planning or reflecting, you just redefine them as conscious actions in the now. And once you truly absorb that, your sense of possibility expands in ways you might never have anticipated. In a moment, we'll move to wrap up, but the real story doesn't end here. It only begins. Before the final moment arrives, let's introduce one last illustration to deepen the mystery. In certain schools of Buddhist thought, the notion of past and future is akin to mental illusions that funnel energy away from present awareness. At first, it sounds like poetic metaphor. But combine that with quantum science's insight that probabilities only manifest upon observation, and the parallels become startling. Could it be that spiritual traditions and scientific reasoning are converging on the same truth in very different languages? That your entire history and yet to come are illusions, while now is the raw, pulsing center of existence? Rest in that thought for a second. Feel your body's response. Does it loosen? Do you sense a tension slipping away? Or perhaps it raises more questions. What if I'm missing out? What if the future won't be what I hope? These questions reveal how deeply conditioned we are to dwell in times that are not real. If you find this idea too large, too dizzying, that's precisely why it's transformative. The big shift never feels small. We've taken a robust exploration through memory, quantum principles, emotional anchors, and daily practices. All roads lead to this radical conclusion about the nature of time, and you've come along for the ride. So, how do we wrap this up in a way that actually impacts your life? Let's find out. You've ventured through a labyrinth of perspectives, from the illusions of memory to the probabilities of quantum states, from emotional threads to mindful practice. Now it's time for you to step fully into this moment. Here's your challenge. For the next 24 hours, intentionally notice every time you slip into past or future thinking. Gently bring your awareness back to the singular now. You can even use a quick breath check or jot down a note of gratitude. Watch how, with each return to the present, you feel more alive and less weighed down by imaginary timelines. And here's a further dare. Share your observations below. Let others see how this perspective shift unlocks new ways of deciding, living, and being. There's more to uncover, of course. The rabbit hole of what you call time goes deeper than any single video can show, but the biggest step begins with a willingness to see that nothing truly exists but this moment. Now is your chance to merge the mind-bending revelations with tangible daily practice. And are you ready to step beyond the illusions you've held for a lifetime? Share your insights, subscribe if you want to keep unveiling more mysteries, and remember, this moment is all you have, and it might just be everything you need.